And we are live. Welcome, everyone. And in this video, I am going to be talking about an epidemic that is going on right now in our country. And it is the epidemic associated with vaping. So for the purposes of this replay, I'm not going to be engaging in greeting everyone tonight. I'll wait until the end of the video and then I can do that. So if you have any questions as I go through, write them down and then I'll answer them toward the end. But let me just start out right now by asking you, what is this? Take a real close look at it. What is this? And let me see your answers down in the comment section, but like, what is this? And if you think it's a flash drive, a jump drive, or some kind of photo stick, think again. This particular device is the USB charging port for a popular brand of electronic cigarettes. However, there is another electronic cigarette that is even more popular, and it looks more like this. It might be just a little bit longer, a little bit thinner, but it looks more like this. And something else that you need to know is that vaping or smoking e-cigarettes is on the rise in American teens. So if you're a parent, a grandparent, or just a concerned citizen, keep watching, because in this live stream, I'm going to tell you 5 things that you need to know about today's vaping epidemic. So stay tuned. Now, before we get into that, if you're new to my channel, I'm Denise Jordan, and I teach women to make wise home health and beauty decisions. So if you want to learn more about running a household, subscribe. Or if you want to see reviews about products that can benefit you in your home, subscribe, because I do videos about those topics all the time. So hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. But definitely check out the show notes in the description box below, because that's where I'll link my favorite housekeeping and gardening solutions. Okay, let's get into it. Vaping has taken America by storm, and it has parents, teachers, and healthcare providers struggling to figure out what to do. And according to the 2017 edition of Monitoring the Future, and it's like a survey, a continuous survey of American youth, 1 in 4 high school students report vaping. Now, what is vaping? Now, again, it's the use of electronic cigarettes. So, as I said earlier, 1 in 4 American high school students report using an electronic cigarette. Is your child the 1 in 4? That's a good question. So now, let me ask you first of all, what is vaping? What do you know about vaping? Tell me in the comment section, what is vaping? What are your thoughts about what that is? We already saw what your thoughts were about that rechargeable port for the e-cigarette. So what is vaping? What do you know about that? And actually, vaping is using an electronic device called an e-cigarette. And e-cigarettes were created. Well, I see that Live, Laugh, Love, and Pray says she thought vaping included using a hookah, and it does not. That is one form of vaping, but the most popular kind of vaping includes using a simple device like an e-cigarette. And as I was about to say, e-cigarettes were created as an alternative to tobacco use, as an alternative to tobacco-based products. So they were meant to target those people who were already tobacco users and were wanting to quit. But what has happened is that American teens who might not have considered picking up a tobacco-based product are vaping. So here's the thing. The juice or the chemical that they use in the electronic or e-cigarettes contain nicotine. So the person takes a few puffs off the e-cigarette and they're getting a few hits of nicotine. So vaping or smoking, which is using e-cigarettes, is not harmless because nicotine is addictive, it is a carcinogen, and it is just overall, in general, bad for health. So now let me be a little bit more explicit about what an electronic or e-cigarette is. An e-cigarette is an electronic device that holds a nicotine-infused juice. Well, now one of the comments is that nicotine is the same thing that is in regular cigarettes. And yes, nicotine is in regular cigarettes. But the thing about the chemical-infused, the nicotine-infused juice that is used in e-cigarettes, they're not regulated quite as well as what cigarettes are. And kids will vape thinking that they're being safer because it's not tobacco. But the chemicals in the e-cigarettes are considered a tobacco product, even though it's a chemical base. So now let me tell you what an e-cigarette is. And it's a device that holds a nicotine-infused juice. So you hold the e-cigarette in your hand like that. You place it between your lips. You draw on it, you inhale just like in a regular cigarette, like a regular tobacco-based product. Now, why the chemical in the e-cigarette is called a juice, I don't know, because it's not like any juice I've ever been exposed to. I think they may use the term juice rather than chemical just to make it sound more palatable. But regardless of that, e-cigarettes have three components. A rechargeable device such as this, which you will insert your nicotine-infused juice in. This little USB port, and what you do is you screw this on like this, and then you insert it into a charging area. You can use it in your computer, whatever. And then that kind of heats it up in here. It recharges the battery. And then when you're ready to actually use it, you end up with a little cartridge like this. Now, the particular device I have right now is this one, and it is the Mark 10 Bold, the menthol brand. And this particular kind, menthols, are primarily marketed for the African American population because when we smoke, we tend to like menthol flavors. So this one is marketed for African Americans. And so this is the cartridge that comes with the device. So to be able to use an e-cigarette, you have to have a cartridge or a pod, the rechargeable device, and then you take the cartridge, screw it on like that, and then this is, you inhale from this end. And with this particular one, once the battery is charged, there's like a little LED light right here, if you can see that right there, that actually lights up. So you'll have a little glowing ember on the end that simulates a real cigarette. So that's what this is. And this is the Mark 10 Bold menthol brand of the e-cigarette. And notice, says right here on the box, warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. So there's that. So now, when you think about what e-cigarettes look like, some are long and slim like this one, and then some look like this. They look like a USB port. This particular one is called a Juul, Juul, a Juul. And so smoking with this particular device is called juuling. And when people smoke with these electronic cigarettes, some of them, they will suck it in, they inhale, and they blow the smoke out their nose like a dragon. Some of it blow it out their mouth, and they'll blow smoke rings, do kind of tricks with it, that kind of thing. But whatever, they suck it in and they blow it out, just like a tobacco-based product. Now, the one thing you want to know also is that some of the cartridges or pods are refillable. So now with this particular device, and what I'm talking about is electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes. With this particular device, this from here to here is the juice-filled cartridge. This one is not refillable. So when you purchase this box, you get the cartridge in it, you get the rechargeable battery, and then you also get the USB port. Now, this is a single-use device, but what I mean by single-use is that you can't refill it. So this particular one, they can take quite a few puffs off of it. So it can last them anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending upon how many puffs they take. So this is probably equivalent to about 1 pack of cigarettes. So depending upon how many hits a day they take, can be anywhere from up to almost 200 puffs. So there's that. And then there are those devices that have a chamber in them that you can buy a vial, like a little vial of juice about this big, and refill the chamber. So there's single-use ones, meaning that non-refillable is what I should say, non-refillable devices and refillable devices. So the refillable devices, like I said, you can buy a chamber, a little bottle or a little vial of the juice that's about this big, and they have different amounts of nicotine in them as well, and then you can refill your device that way. But this is a single-use device. Now, this particular one here is very popular. This is the Blue brand, and you can find it in many of your convenience stores, service stations, and that kind of thing. When I picked these up today, this box was about $7. This is a starter kit. It was $20. Now this one's going back to the store. Okay, so now let's talk about juuling. Now my question to you is, what is juuling? Who out there knows what a Juul is? Tell me in the comment section below. And let me show you this graphic that I found. It's a series of headlines. So each one of these is a different headline. Now let me read them to you because I'm sure that was difficult to see. The Wall Street Journal: schools and parents fight a Juul e-cigarette epidemic. CNN: vaping now an epidemic among U.S. high schoolers. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel: juuling is the new teen vaping epidemic, or rather, juuling is the new teen vaping fad, taking over school bathrooms. And then the New York Times: I can't stop. Schools struggle with vaping explosion. So those are the 4 headlines from 4 different sources, just to kind of let you know that juuling is a huge problem. And what they're showing you in here, this is a jewel right here. So if you look at it, it looks like it's a flash drive. You can see the part down here that you connect to the USB port to heat it up. And then up there is the part that you would actually put in your mouth. So you would put it in the mouth, something like this. And then you would suck or inhale on it that way. And like most e-cigarettes, your jewels require a cartridge or a pod to hold the chemical infusion. And when inhaled through the device, it forms a vapor. And as I said earlier, the vapor contains nicotine and other harmful substances. So according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, nicotine is addictive and it can harm adolescent brain development. And that's why it is so important that children, teens, and adolescents don't smoke, because their brains are still developing. And so smoking or juuling is bad for kids, teens, and it's bad for their brain development. And so, you know, if you look at the different e-cigarettes, they come in many different sizes, many different shapes. They have different brands. But right now, the Juul is the most popular brand. And as I showed you earlier, the Juul looks like this. Now, this is the thing about the Juul. They're a compact device and they look like a flash drive. And kids actually stick the USB port in their computer to charge. So parents will see that and think that they're just charging a flash drive. They will take them to school. They're small enough to slip in their pocket, and they can have them sticking right in their computer on their desk, and the teachers think it's a flash drive. So it escapes detection. And the other thing about the Juul is that it creates less smoke than other e-cigarettes. So kids are often able to sneak a hit right there in the classroom undetected. Like maybe it's like pulled, it's in the port of their computer. So they take it out and they like take a hit real quick, pop it back in. And since the vapor with the Juul is not as abundant as with some of the other cigarettes, the e-cigarettes, the teacher doesn't even know that they took a hit right there in the classroom. And then the bathroom is a huge, huge place now for kids to go into the bathroom and light it up with the Juuls. So it's a real problem. And here's the other thing regarding the e-cigarettes. Now, keep in mind that electronic cigarettes were devised for the adult market that was already using tobacco products and they were trying to quit. But you can buy flavored chemicals like creme brulee, strawberry, watermelon, mango, and blueberry, and other flavors. So how many adults do you know that are looking for strawberry flavored cigarettes? So even though they say they're not targeting the youth market, it is believed that they are. And as a matter of fact, the company that created the Juul is right now under investigation because it is believed that they are specifically targeting the youth market. So the vape shop that I went to check a few things out doesn't even carry the Juuls anymore because they didn't want the hassle associated with that. So now let me ask you this. Who do you think blueberry flavored juice or creme brulee juice or vanilla custard juice for your Juuls or for your e-cigarette, who is that targeting? Inquiring minds want to know. And then, as I said earlier, a single cartridge or pod in a Juul. And as I showed you, this is a cartridge for this particular brand of e-cigarette. And then the cartridge in the Juuls just look a little bit different, or the liquid pod in this one look just a little bit different, but they're basically all pretty much the same thing. Now, where can you buy these? Well, you can pick them up at almost any convenience store, the Dollar General, I believe Dollar Tree. You can pick them up at your service stations, gas stations, that kind of thing. You can get them at Walmart. You can buy them in vape shops, and you can get them online. So that's where you can get them. Now, the thing about them, though, is that in most states, you have to be over 21 to purchase tobacco-related products. And e-cigarettes are considered to be tobacco products, even though there's no real tobacco in them, because they are nicotine-based and they're used for smoking. They are considered a tobacco-based product. And so they have many of the same rules and regulations associated with who can purchase them. So talk to your child about smoking, about vaping, and about juuling, and let him or her know how you feel about that behavior. And if you need help or more information about juuling or vaping in general, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, has a lot of information, but in particular, there is a parent tip sheet that can really be helpful for you. And there's another one that they have that talks about the effects of smoking and vaping on health. So I will link those two resources below in case you want to check them out. So now let's sum it up. There's 5 things that I want you to take away from this live stream. And the first thing that I want you to take away is the information that vaping is on the rise in American teens. And we need to do the necessary education to stop it or to prevent it. The second thing is that you need to know what e-cigarettes look like, what they are, number 2, and then what they look like, number 3. I had a friend that I was talking to, and she said, and we're both nurses, and she said her daughter dropped her purse and stuff fell out of it and went rolling across the floor, and an e-cigarette rolled out. And she said, hey, we've got to have a talk. But if she didn't know what it looked like, she might have just thought it was another flash drive. So you need to know what they are and what they look like so that you can be proactive or reactive depending upon what the situation is. I also want you to know what a Juul is and what juuling is, because some parents may hear the kids talk about juuling and not realize that juuling is just another word for vaping. You're just using a particular kind of e-cigarette. A Juul was made by the company Juul's Manufacturing, and so the kids have turned using a Juul into a verb, like juuling. Like we say, well, let's Google this or that. Well, when they talk about juuling, they're talking about smoking with an electronic cigarette. And then the last thing I want you to take away is how you can get more information, because this is just such an important topic. So now, what questions do you have about e-cigarettes and vaping? I'm ready to answer those now. I know someone said they thought that vaping was, you had to use a hookah, and no, that's not the only way to do that. And granted, yes, there are hookah bars and those big long things that you can use for, electronically to smoke. That's not what we're talking about today, and that's not what most of the kids are doing. So what questions do you have about vaping? Has any one of you out there seen an e-cigarette in your home or seen anyone smoking an e-cigarette? And just like many places will ban tobacco smoking in public places, you can't you can't do vaping in public places as well. Is there evidence that e-cigarettes help adult smokers quit smoking? No, there is no evidence to that effect. Not at all. And I think to a certain degree they've quit advertising that, because what the evidence shows is that children that start out with e-cigarettes will eventually move to tobacco-based products. So no, there's no evidence that these help you quit smoking. If you think about it, they're nicotine infused, and there's no filter on them. So you're probably going to get more of the direct nicotine hit with the e-cigarette than you will with a tobacco-based product, which typically will have a filter. And also, there's like 3 different levels of nicotine that you can buy in the little vials that you can purchase. You can purchase your own vials at many of the vape shops, and you can even develop your own flavors. Like if you go in there, they will have like a little station set up that's almost like a pharmacy that you can create some of your own flavors right there on the spot and buy it and take it home. It's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. And you might also be interested to know that R.J. Reynolds, who holds a large share of the tobacco-based industry, has purchased a significant interest in electronic cigarette manufacturing and that whole business. So when they begin to lose market share with tobacco-based products, they're now investing in e-cigarettes so they can make up that dollar loss. Other questions? That was a really good question. And I guess I really find it hard to believe that in this day and age, which as much as we know about smoking and the effects, the harmful effects of tobacco, that people continue to smoke, and now there's another version of smoking. And I'm not trying to put those of you who might smoke on the defense, but I have to wonder, when you began smoking, if it was something you thought you would do the rest of your life, and certainly is it a habit that you want your child or your grandchild to pick up? Any questions? Did I explain it that well? Because I don't see any questions out there. Well, then, if there are no questions, then I guess I will wrap this up. So I want to thank you guys for joining me, and I want to thank you too for being patient that I did not engage in greeting because I needed to get the information out. So good. I'm glad Edith felt like wait a minute, is that my friend Edith from the library? It just dawned on me. When I saw that name, I thought, is that Edith Helbert from the library? When I saw your name pop up earlier, it didn't click with me, but just now I thought, wait a minute, I think that's my friend. Yes, that's my friend Edith from the library. Well, I'm glad that this was a good explanation for you. So many parents have no clue about juuling, and I must admit, I was a little bit surprised when I learned what was going on with that. And some of the high schools are really having a struggle with it. And I know here in the town that I live in, one high school in particular is really struggling with it because there's a vape shop right across the street from the school. And then a mile down the street, there's about 3 clustered together. I don't know much about any of the the juices that don't have nicotine. I think they all have them. All of the chemicals, juices that you use for vaping, they almost all have nicotine in them. And someone else had a comment. I think they were saying that their doctor said that e-cigarettes could help people quit smoking. Well, I suppose they could, but the question is whether or not they do. And I don't believe they do. From the evidence that I've seen, I don't believe they do. Because if you think about it, they have nicotine in them. I suppose it could be like if people that are taking those nicotine patches to quit smoking, they do help, but over a gradual period of time. But the patches have a more controlled amount of nicotine in them. But the people that are vaping, depending upon whether or not they purchase products with how large a concentration of nicotine that's in that particular vial that they purchase. And I suppose if they start out with large amounts of nicotine, like those that have I think it's like 6 milligrams, and they go down to the 4 and then down to the 2, kind of gradually reduce it, I suppose it could be helpful. But I think on the overall scheme of things, that's not what's happening. That might have been the intent, but that's not what's happening. Does that help answer or at least address the comment that you made? Crickets now? Okay. And I know it is late too, so let me just thank you guys for jumping on with me. I do appreciate it. I wanted to share this information with you. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've just really been concerned about the juuling epidemic, the e-cigarette fad that's kind of sweeping the country. And so I wanted parents and grandparents and just people in general to be aware so that they could do due diligence and do some just to do a little bit of checking out of things on their own and then be prepared to have the conversation with that young person. I just want you to be prepared to have that conversation because it's coming. Okay, so someone, and I didn't catch the name, said they do have some juices with no nicotine in them. I was not aware of that, but I guess my question then would be, if there's no nicotine in the juices, then what is the purpose of the of smoking them? But yes, you can decrease the amount of nicotine in the juices that you purchase. When I visited the vape shop, they had, like I said, from 6 to 4 to 2, and even some that had like 1 in them. And so you can choose to kind of gradually go down if you're that disciplined. Many people are not that disciplined and it doesn't work out well for them. But you could do it that way because that was the whole purpose of the e-cigarette when they were devised. They said the purpose was to help adults on cigarettes quit. But as I mentioned earlier, the people who are taking up these e-cigarettes and particularly juuling by storm are adolescents, middle school and high school students. And that's certainly not the population we want. And then once they start smoking as a young person with the e-cigarettes, the evidence shows that they often progress to tobacco-based products. And then, of course, all the other health problems that you get with those. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to wrap this up for now. And like I said, there were 5 things that I wanted to make sure that you got. And one of those is that vaping is on the rise in our American teens. I wanted you to know what an e-cigarette is and what they look like. I wanted you to know what juuling is and what they look like, and then how you can get help or how you can get more information to talk with your young person about that. So if you want to learn more about running a household, I encourage you to please subscribe. If you want to learn more about health and beauty, and on Wednesdays, a lot of times I will talk about health-related products. Tonight's Wednesday, so this was our health topic for the week. And I would love to have you subscribe to the TNT community. So Learning Alley 07. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate that. You're new to my circle, so I appreciate your jumping in and joining me tonight. And for those of you that are part of the TNT family, thank you for being here to support me, and I will check with you next time. Bye.